Welcome to the Podkey summary of Rediscover the HTML Select Element from WWDC 2026. One of the web's most stubborn little pain points is finally getting a real upgrade. The humble Select dropdown. Safari 27 and Chrome 135 are bringing a new customizable select feature that lets developers style native selects with plain HTML and CSS, while keeping the built-in accessibility and keyboard behavior that custom JavaScript widgets usually fumble. And the interesting part isn't just that it looks nicer. It opens the door to rich option content, custom icons, even grid-based drop-down layouts without giving up the semantic select element underneath. If you've ever built forms on the web, you know the select element has always been a bit of a drama queen. Developers usually had two bad choices: live with the browser's default styling, or replace it with a heavy custom drop-down built in JavaScript. That second route can look great, but it often breaks things people rely on, like arrow key navigation, type ahead, screen reader announcements, focus handling, and the plain old reliability of forms submitting the way they should. This new feature changes the deal, because it keeps the real select in place and only opens up the appearance layer. The key switch is a CSS rule: appearance, base select. That strips away the browser's default drop-down look and gives developers a clean set of styling hooks they can actually work with. What's nice here is that it doesn't mess with the underlying behavior. Form submission still works, focus still works, and the control is still a real select instead of a carefully disguised pile of divs. One of those hooks is picker icon, which exposes the little arrow glyph on the select. That means designers can change its content, size, or color, and even update it when the menu is open using the post and open pseudo class. So instead of fighting the browser over one tiny triangle for an afternoon, the icon can simply match the button text color and behave like part of the design. There are deeper hooks too. Picker select targets the drop-down panel itself, which means padding, borders, shadows, and layout are all fair game. And checkmark lets you restyle the selected option checkmark or remove it entirely. That sounds small, but it's a good example of what's changed here. Details that used to require JavaScript hacks are now just CSS. Maybe the biggest visual leap is that customizable select allows arbitrary HTML inside option elements. So now a dropdown can include SVGs, images, emojis, or little thumbnails right in the list, which makes visual categories much easier to scan. There was also a thoughtful accessibility note in the demo. An image alt attribute was left empty on purpose, so screen readers wouldn't announce the same thing twice. That's the kind of trade-off that shows this isn't just about making things prettier, it's about making richer UI without accidentally making it noisier. Another clever piece is that developers can place a button as the first child of the select. That lets the clickable button show the selected option's rich content, like an SVG, instead of being stuck with text only. And if the browser doesn't support the feature yet, it falls back to the native button automatically. That's progressive enhancement doing exactly what it's supposed to do. This whole thing is especially good news for accessibility because the semantic select remains in charge. Keyboard navigation, ARIA roles, type ahead behavior, and screen reader support come along for free, which is precisely what custom dropdowns tend to lose. The presenter even noted that screen readers still announce the selected option correctly after heavy visual customization, and that's a big deal. The advice was sensible too. Test with and without support, and test with assistive tech, because graceful fallback only counts if you actually check it. Things get a little wild with Safari's experimental grid lanes feature, where the drop-down becomes a multi-column grid of option cards instead of a simple list. That's a pretty striking demo of what happens when these new select hooks meet newer layout tools. Suddenly, a drop-down can act more like a compact visual gallery, still without JavaScript. Support is arriving fast too, first in Safari Technology Preview, then Safari 27, and in Chrome 135 as well. That kind of near-simultaneous rollout across engines makes this feel less like a science experiment and more like something developers should start trying now in Safari beta or preview builds. It's rare for a form control update to feel genuinely exciting, but this one earns it. A native select that looks custom, behaves properly, and degrades gracefully is the kind of boring-sounding progress the web desperately needs. Sometimes the glow-up really is in the dropdown. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.